Hi there, Alex here at mixinglessons.com. In this video, we're going to have a look at the process of setting up what's known as a mix bus. So that refers to the process of setting up a channel which your whole mix passes through before it then goes to the master fader. And so we'll have a look at the process of how to do that and why that can be beneficial. Before we dive in, I've got 3 free guides for you. I've got an EQ cheat sheet, a compression cheat sheet, and a vocal recording guide. And you can get all 3 by heading over to mixinglessons.com/free-downloads. Okay, so generally within a session, all of the tracks in your mix are being sent to a master fader. So you can see here that the outputs of each of the channels in this mix are all going to this master fader channel. Now the process of setting up a mix bus means that what we would do is we would set up an additional channel, an auxiliary channel, and we would send each of these tracks to the auxiliary channel, and the auxiliary channel would then be routed to the master fader. So let's have a look at how to do that. So let's set up a stereo aux track. And we'll just call this mix bus. And then what we'll do is we'll set the input to an available bus. Buses allow us to send audio to different places. So we've set the input to bus 1 and 2, and that means that anything that's sent on bus 1 and 2 will arrive at this channel and will pass through this channel. So let's set our outputs of each of these tracks to bus 1 and 2. So rather than these channels, our drums, bass and guitar, all going directly to this master fader, what's happening is they're first passing through this auxiliary channel, this mix bus channel, and then the output of this mix bus channel is then arriving at the master fader. Now you might say, well, what's the benefit of doing that? Well, in Pro Tools, which I'm working in here, and in a lot of different music software, something to be aware of is that the inserts here on the master fader are what's known as post-fade. What that means is that if you add a plugin, let's say you want to pass everything through a compressor, the level of the signal that's going into this compressor is affected by the position of this fader. Okay, so it's post-fade. The level going into the plugin or into any plugin that you add on any of these insert points happens after the fader. So let's send some signal into this compressor. So we're getting a couple of decibels of gain reduction. Now let's say later down the line we decide we want to turn the overall track up. As you can see, we're now pushing the signal a lot harder into the compressor. Let's say we want to turn the signal down. And so now we're not actually sending enough signal into the compressor to apply any compression. So let's say at the end of a song you want to automate the level of the song to fade out. Well, if you do that on the master fader, you're going to alter what level things are going into the plugins on that channel. Let's say you've done all of your mixing, but you're going to be sending this track away to a mastering engineer, and so you need to leave a little bit of headroom for mastering. And so you find towards the end of the session that you need to turn the mix down. You're going to be altering the level of the signal that's going into any plugins on this master fader. So the solution is to set up a mix bus. The difference with the mix bus and the master fader is that these insert points where we would add our plugins are what are known as pre-fade. So that means that these plugins are before the fader. So they're not affected by the level of the fader. Any changes that we make to the position of this fader, whether we turn the track up or down, it's not going to affect the level that's going into the plugins. It's purely turning the signal up or down after it's been processed. So you can add the compression and then turn the compressed signal up or down. So if we move this plugin over, getting a couple of decibels of gain reduction, and then if we turn this signal down, as you can see, the compression stays the same. Now you might say the master fader in my DAW, in my digital audio workstation, the insert points are pre-fade, or I can choose whether they're pre-fade or post-fade. So is there still a benefit to doing this? Well, actually there is. If you like to use reference tracks, so you like to import into your mix a track that you think sounds really good, so that you can compare your mix to your reference track, then if you set up a mix bus, what you can do is you can route the reference track directly to the master fader. It doesn't have to go through the mix bus. So what you can do is you can then listen to the reference track without any types of processing going on and compare that to your mix. Whereas if you were adding plugins to the master fader itself, your reference track would also pass through those plugins, so you're not really doing a fair comparison. So that's another little benefit of setting up a mix bus in your session. So I hope you found this interesting, hope you found it useful. Don't forget to get that free EQ cheat sheet, that free compression cheat sheet, and that free vocal recording guide at mixinglessons.com/free-downloads. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.